Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Creative Entrepreneur interview series. I am your co host, Beth Barany, and I'm going to introduce myself in a minute. Gala, my co host, will introduce herself. And then we have a guest today, Daniel Wallace, who will introduce himself. And then onward and forward we'll go. So, a little bit about me. I am an award winning science fiction and fantasy novelist, helping science fiction and fantasy novelists, where I help authors go from seed of an idea all the way to publication, spending a lot of time helping them learn how to edit and revise their novels to the delight of their readers. And now, along with Gala, we are starting up creative entrepreneurship training program where we want to help you creative writers who want to build profitable, sustainable businesses serving other creatives so you can share your expertise with confidence and make a living doing what you love. So that's what I'm about in a nutshell. Gala, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Gala, and I am the co-host today and have been honored to co-create this wonderful program for creative entrepreneurs who want to do this, but are not 100% sure where to start or starting, but like are not really getting into the where they want to be. And I also joined the creative world as a romance author. I have published almost 10 books now. I need to count at some point how many exactly books I published under Willa Drew with my co-author, and then I started my book coaching and publishing strategist journey, which was a huge and important part for me because I used to be a teacher and I always wanted to give back and to share all the knowledge. So now I feel like this is like a next step up. Now we're going to teach the people who are creative writers, who want to teach the creative. It's like meta. It's great. I'm very excited. And I'm also super excited to introduce our guest today, Daniel Wallace. He's amazing. He does so many great things. I was part of one of his summits recently, but we're going to let him introduce himself because he does it brilliantly. Go for it, Daniel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. I am the host of Escape the Plot Forest, the summit that's now coming into its sixth year in October 2025. I help fiction writers. I have an approach that I call character first writing that helps people plot the way I think the readers like to read, and it helps free up people and help them deliver the book they most want to create. And yeah, I love doing this, and I'm excited to talk about sort of behind the scenes of what it takes to be a good teacher, a good coach. See if I can give any helpful tips.
That's so wonderful. I can't remember who's going first. Shall I just dive in? Yeah. Yeah. Great. We've been tag teaming. Who gets to ask the first question? And I just have to say, Daniel, I've been a speaker on your summits over the last few years. I really, really enjoyed it. And here you are opening up the curtain of like, what is it like behind the scenes, what you think about as a creative entrepreneur. So I'd like to start off by having you share with us, what do you notice with your clients, what their common problems are?
That's a great question. And I think it's different for everybody. Like I really think this topic is important. And I think that you attract people in ways that you don't understand. That people will come to you, and different writers will find different teachers. Many of my clients feel stuck. They feel like they have been trying to write their book for a long time and they're not making progress. And I think both on a kind of just a sort of functional marketing level, but also on a deep, profound level, it's really worth talking to the people that come to you, talking to the people, start reading your emails, to start responding to what you're doing, to start buying your stuff and seeing like what are they actually struggling with? What are they what are they not focused on? And a good example of this is early in my career, I thought, well, my writers would really benefit from writing faster. I bet if I could teach them how to write faster. And there's all that advice out there. Stephen King, the write 10,000 words a day lady, she's amazing. I was like, if I could teach them to do that, that'd be so helpful. And that course sank like a bomb. Like it sank like an anvil in the sea. It was just because my authors didn't really want to do that. They're like, I've been writing this book for 10 years. I don't need it to go faster. I just want it to go. And for me to be saying I'll teach you to write faster was not simpatico with how they saw things. And that kind of thing I think is really important to do in this kind of work. Like, who are the people I'm attracting? What are they looking for? What speaks to them?
Yeah, and what do they really need? And I feel like I know Gala's getting started in her first year of business, and I've been at it for 19 years, and I still feel there's more layers that I'm peeling back on this. When I hear a client say to me something over and over again, I'm like, oh, they're really saying this. I think they're saying this, but actually, they're really saying this. Like, oh, I have anxiety. Oh, is this okay? Is this okay? And I'm like, oh, they're building their confidence muscle. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about confidence. Yeah, this is great. Gal, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, I just want to comment that this seems to be a recurrent theme through the interviews where people are saying, and the best thing was listen to my clients and what they tell me they need. That seems to be a constant recurrent theme because I think we come and we have all of these ideas. One of our people, like the Meg, she was doing a poetry class and she was basically had a bunch of topics and she made her audience pick which course she needs to make to do next, which I thought was like another amazing way to get the feedback from your audience before you launch the product because they're going to tell you they know what they want a lot of times faster than we know that. But let's go to the second question. The second question is one of my favorite questions I love asking as a former project manager, where at the end of each project you have lessons learned. So could you please tell us what mistakes you have made early on and what advice you would give around that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I made a ton of, I mean, I feel like I made a ton of mistakes, and there's like a whole category of mistakes that I don't feel bad about at all. I think that one thing that similarly to listening to your audience, one thing that many people struggle with in this line of work is trying stuff is the key. Like not trying good stuff, but just trying things. And while I love those people who say like have one thing that you sell for 25 years only, I'm not that kind of person. So I want to try all kinds of stuff and see what works. And if I show it, and to sort of back up what you were just saying, like I will constantly do like little pre-sales, little hints. And if no one's interested, I will just change the whole thing. Like, oh, thought that would be a hit. Not okay, rolling on. One of the mistakes I made early on is that I feel embarrassed about is I would try and discourage my clients if I was doing coaching from like taking on too much writing advice. Like if I sort of sense like when I was getting started, I was like, well, then they don't, yeah, I'm already coaching them. They don't need like more coaches. And what I came to realize is like people often it's sort of like none of my business on the one hand. Like you're not there to sort of guide your even if it's one-to-one coaching through kinds of all kind of what they should do with their money, with their time. And it's also the case that people who are learning the craft can absorb just as authors, sorry, just as readers of fiction can absorb so much more than we can possibly create, that they can watch more YouTube channel videos that we could ever record in a week, that they are going to be absorbing all kinds of things. And I say that not as a kind of gatekeeping thing. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm better than this other person. It was just kind of like thinking, well, I should be sort of helping this person like watch their learning diet. And I sort of realized later like that was not helpful at all. Yeah, that's sort of the one of the things I sort of look back on with a kind of bewilderment.
Yeah, I hear you. I kind of felt the same. And then I realized, no, look how many writing books I have. Not just one shelf, but two. Look, those are all the people I've learned from. So obviously, people are going to take a class from me and others. And in fact, it's way better that they learn from all of us than just one of us because something's going to land, or I might describe structure one way and you might describe it another way, and Gala a third way. And one of us is going to finally click for the author and like, oh, I understand now. And honestly, we don't know until we try.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of learning, so much of pedagogy is repetition. You're constantly hearing things. The thing that makes me so sad when I hear someone say, like, isn't that a bit like, I'm like, that's not what we're doing here. Like, it's not about recognizing ideas. It's about trying to hear it the new way. And that's what I'm always trying to do. Like, oh, like you're explaining something that I've heard a million times before, but maybe you're explaining a way that will give me a new framework. And this is not really, I don't know if I would classify this as a mistake, but definitely a problem I had when I got started. I didn't know how to collaborate with people. I didn't have a system, a plan. And so I had this period of like, I had a sort of lucky early start where the first year went really well, but then the year 2 and year 3 was a real struggle. I wasn't growing the business. I was selling I had courses, I had customers, but it was sort of swimming against the current. And then I started running my summits in 2020, and it's like by collaborating with other teachers, my enterprise just has kept growing. And that's been the best decision I ever made, is to really just, we're all in this together. We're trying to expand their craft. And if you sort of look at that way, I think you do 10 times better than if you sit there thinking, I need to guard my customers from everybody else. I think that's just the wrong attitude.
Yeah, I know that Gala is very collaborative, and I saw a big shift in my business. It started opening up as soon as I started collaborating, doing webinars with one other teacher, and then recently, gosh, how long has it been? 2 years working on a small, very tiny, tiny film project with a crew. And you can't, it's very, very hard to make a movie by yourself. I mean, with today's technology, you can, but I had actors and I needed sets and costumes, and I didn't know how to do half of what I ended up doing. And I had been craving creative collaborative projects for a really long time. And the film really scratched that itch in such a fulfilling way that made me go, okay, that's it. No more solo entrepreneur baloney. This is not a solo endeavor anymore. Everything has to be partnered, collaborative, because it's way more fun. And so I love that. And you're such a great example of that. I always, as a teacher, come into your summits feeling so welcomed that I get to lend my voice to this chorus, and all the writers who come in as participants get to hear such a beautiful buffet of learnings, right? And you do such a beautiful job setting the tone. And I want to emulate you, because I think Gal and I are going to do something related to this topic, right? Of creative entrepreneurship and coming at it from this full-hearted, whole-bodied, holistic sense. So very, very excited. You wanted to add something, Gala?
Yeah, I wanted to add that to me, when we talked about earlier about networking, there like different meaning to networking. And when you are talking about your clients, your networking is also a benefit to them, because there are things that you can teach, but there are certain things that you cannot teach. And if you have a good network, you can refer them to a good developmental editor or a PR person, or you use your network as a benefit to your client, because now they don't have to go and search and do all of that extra legwork. You automatically introduce them to a wonderful network of all the people who are vetted, who you know are great. And I don't know, to me, that's by creating that network for yourself, you're also helping your clients getting it easier, getting their publishing road much easier. It's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So great. So I'm going to move to the next question, which is, can you tell us a little bit what you see as the value of one-to-one coaching in an online course business?
Yeah. So I have always had online courses. That's sort of how I got started. My first sort of paid real product was an online course about plot. But I think that finding ways to, even if you like that model and you think like, I just want to make like a course, it's got a bunch of stuff up there, people sign up, and that's great. People buy it, you're kind of done. You could just watch them go through and respond to their questions. Even if that's the model you like, I think that it's incredibly valuable to keep talking to people either one-on-one or in small groups, because that's where so many of the great ideas come from. It's just like you explain an idea to someone and you watch them and they don't get it and you think, why is that not working? And okay, and you say another way, the person's like, oh, that's so helpful. And I think that it's in those conversations in either small groups or one-to-one coaching where you just get so many either new ideas, new material, or you you just sort of see like how people understand your ideas. And there's this, the famous thing of the teacher's fallacy, where you get so used to certain things, certain ideas, certain concepts, that to you it's just obvious or maybe even references to novels that you assume everyone else has read, but they really haven't, and that's normal. Just as you have not read a bunch of novels that the rest of us might think were on the curriculum. And so I think that even if there's sometimes language of like do things that scale, do things that sort of like you can sort of, hand off to someone else. I think there's a lot of value in remaining kind of like having conversations with people and trying to understand like how their problems, how you can make sense of what they're trying to do. I think that's really valuable.
I love that. Not just offloaded or be just process oriented or like, here you go. Here's the thing. Yeah. And I'm a big proponent of that. I run a small group coaching mastermind now for, gosh, over a decade. And I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly asking them, now what do you need? Now what do you need? And getting things I had never thought of, or maybe I kind of took for granted. And they're like, ooh, they want to talk about class systems. Ooh, let me develop a lesson around class systems. And then watching them just like explode with excitement and ideas and realize, oh yeah, oh, that really helps. And co-collaborating with them. I want to ask the adjunct to this, and maybe then Gala, you have something to add, which is when you are working one-on-one, what do you do to help to understand, or even in your course curriculums, to what the writer's goals are, what your audience goals are?
That's a great question. And I think there's a real danger with coaching where you, as the coach, can kind of like overrule the student. Like often as a coach, if you've been doing it for a while, you hear the same questions over and over again. You see the same problems over and over again. Someone can describe their story often in a matter of minutes, and I'll just think, oh, I can see the problem here. I can talk for the next. Let me just talk for the rest of the hour, and I can just teach you what you should do. We can cancel the rest of the sessions. And the problem with that is that often the writer is not ready for that kind of advice. They don't see the project in that same light. So what I spend a lot of time doing is saying, where do you see this project? Is this close to the end? Because I'm going to give you very different advice. If you basically think it's ready, then I'm not going to be saying like, get rid of that character. Let's all move the story to Fiji. Like that would be like, I think in some ways irresponsible. Instead, I'm going to be sort of saying like, okay, let's look at the way the scenes transition from one sort of area to the next. Let's try and, like, can you explain this bit of the outline over here? And I think trying to get to the point, to me, a good coaching session is where the student is like a little bit annoyed that I keep asking if it's okay to go on. They'll say like, I'm paying you, like, just tell me, like, what is the next thing? And I think that that's like a good sign, like sort of where do you see the project? And there's a deeper level of this that I'm still trying to learn myself, which is then, as you suggest ideas, as one suggests ideas, trying to see like, where does the student look apprehensive? Because often an idea can seem a sort of, not even an idea, a way of more clearly delivering the writer's vision on the page structurally seems very clear to me, but that would require doing certain things that maybe the writer feels very uncomfortable at doing. Often that is related to the fact that writing a forward-moving plot is just difficult. And there are many things about writing a novel, like say writing a bunch of flashbacks, imagining backstory, are much more pleasant. It's much nicer to do that. And so often one is saying, let's remove those things and let's try and get just the story moving, and let's get these two lovers, let's get them even more mad at each other and see what happens next. Let's let the oxygen out of the space station and see what happens then. And sort of seeing like, okay, when is the writer getting uncomfortable? And then say, okay, let's slow down. Here's how you might do that small part of the story. It's not easy, but trying to sort of, on some level, like get people's consent and understand like how they see their own problem, and then trying to move into micro conversations of like, okay, well, no, they don't all have to die as soon as the oxygen comes out of the space station. There's lots of ways that could be, the story can keep rolling at that point. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, well, it really, I mean, I've been coaching writers for a really long time, and I hear what you're saying is about really listening to them and really asking them and really taking it step by step, because we're at mastery compared to where our clients are usually. And there can be a pretty wide gap sometimes between where they are, like maybe they're working on their first book And here I am working on my 16th book. So I really need to be with them, but also open it up. Like we're not trying to get them from K to from kindergarten up to graduate school in one session. Like let's really meet them where they are. And it sounds like let's really understand what they truly want. And I love what you said about consent. Like it's really holding their book. It's their book. It's not ours. And so I think this is more about the practicum, right? Like being a coach and really listening to our clients and not being so in a rush to be the smart one in the room or the teacher or the one who, yeah.
And just to be clear, I think that there's a saying that I saw in the business world, which is if your coach doesn't have a coach, you need a new coach. And I think that some of that is really worth pondering. Like it's not even about like, do I like say people come to me in certain genres that I feel like I'm a little less familiar with. I work with many romance writers. And so I'm not necessarily saying like I'm the romance expert, but I'm saying as your coach, my job is to kind of listen to what you're saying and like then repeat back to you and say, well, does that actually fit what you said? And that's like the power of being the teacher, being the coach. I think is a really powerful, profound calling. And I would hope that when I bring my work to a coach, that they would do the same thing for me. And you can't, it's kind of difficult to do that for yourself. Like when it's your thing, it doesn't work. You can't sort of like coach yourself. Like it just doesn't work. Like you're too busy being like, well, what will happen in chapter 5 if I do that? Whereas the coach just laughs and says, of course, we'll handle that. That's a problem we don't have to worry about. So I think it's just like teaching is just a meaningful, powerful thing in itself. If I was looking at it, just responding that way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know we do need to wrap up shortly here.
Yeah.
And we could keep going and going because
Sorry.
I'd love to come back to you, Danielle, learn
Fine.
about, the creative entrepreneurship journey for you a little bit more. I feel like this is so valuable too for you to share with us kind of the inner workings of how you show up as a writing teacher and a coach. I think it's beautiful. So I'm sorry we have to end it here, but I just want to say thank you so, so much for showing up today. And we really, really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.